Most KYC programs still work like this. You collect a full identity file, you store it somewhere central, and you hope nobody breaks in. But every extra field you collect becomes another breach surface. And in crypto, linking identity to wallets can turn a breach into doxing. In the next few minutes, I will show you a different architecture Finextra interviewed us about: tokenized attributes and split knowledge. Who hold what? Why there is no single database with the full picture? And what questions your team should ask before adopting it. Thanks for being here. I'm Victor Mendez, co-founder and CMO at Verifyo. Finextra recently interviewed me and our CIO, John Cavebring, and a few other experts about why zero-knowledge proof is becoming a serious standard for identity compliance, especially as breaches and AI-enabled fraud keep scaling. Today, I want to focus on one very practical piece of that conversation: how true knowledge KYC changes the breach model. Because if you are a compliance or fintech decision maker, you already know the reality. Breaches aren't rare events anymore. They are an operating condition. And the uncomfortable part is this: traditional KYC often creates a perfect data honeypot. A concentrated database of names, addresses, ID documents, risk flags, and in some setups, link to account activity. So let's break this down in plain language. What the honeypot problem is, what tokenized attributes actually are, what split knowledge means, who hold what, why that changes breach impact and doxing exposure, and a practical evaluation checklist you can take back to your team. The core problem is this: the KYC data honeypot. In a centralized KYC model, the more you collect, the more you must protect, forever. Across retention rules, access control, internal tooling, vendor pipelines, backups, and logs. And it's not only the volume of data, it's the linkability. In crypto and on-chain contexts, if an attacker can connect a real-world identity to wallet activity, that's not just PII leakage. That's escalate into targeted threats and doxing risks. So when we say honeypot, we're not being dramatic here. We're describing an architecture where one compromise can expose a complete picture. The key principle is separate what you need to know from who the person is. This is the key mental shift, and it's how John framed it in the Finextra piece. Our CIO, John Cavebring, said, zero-knowledge KYC works by separating what you need to know from who the person is. In compliance terms, most of the time, you don't need a platform to hold a full identity dossier to make a decision. You need outcomes. You need verifiable answers to questions like, is this person sanctioned? Are they a political exposed person? Do they match a watchlist? Are they in an eligible country? Are they above an age threshold? Those are compliance-relevant facts. They are not the same things as full name, full address, document images, and everything else that creates breach blast radius. This is why we focus on tokenized attributes, because they are compliance outputs without raw identity files. So, what are these tokenized attributes? Think of them as cryptographic badges that encode specific facts. Our CIO, John Cavebring, said that instead of storing full personal profiles, the system stores and exposes only tokenized attributes. In the Finextra interview, John listed examples like not sanctions, country of residence, PEP status, watchlist status, age eligibility. Here is the important part. The relying platform, like a wallet, exchange, or app, can make compliance decisions using those tokens without ever receiving or storing the underlying name, address, or document images. This is where the zero-knowledge idea matters at a high level. You can prove an attribute is true without revealing everything behind it. Now, let's look at split knowledge and who holds what and why that matters. This is the architecture that really changes the breach model, and it's called split knowledge. In the Finextra piece, John explained it like this, and I'm going to paraphrase it, the mechanism very carefully here. Our CIO, John Cavepring, said the identity partner holds the identity data and a tokenized reference, but they do not see wallet addresses or on-chain activity. Conversely, wallets and exchanges see tokens and compliant results, but not the underlying personal data. And then there is the line that captures the security implication. Our CIO, John Cavepring, said, no single database contains the full picture. And that's the point. You are deliberately preventing any one party from holding identity plus wallet activity plus full context in the same place. So, what happens in a breach scenario? If a wallet or exchange is breached, the attacker might get tokens, but not a ready-made dataset of names, addresses, or wallet links. If the identity provider is breached, attackers might see personal data, but they don't have visibility into which wallets or on-chain activities that data correspond to, because they don't hold wallet addresses or usage context. This doesn't magically make breaches impossible, but it changes what an attacker can exfiltrate and how easily they can operationalize it. In the Finextra interview, John described it as making batch data breaches and full doxing dramatically harder. And that's the right way to phrase it. Harder. Reduce blast radius, reduce linkability, not guaranteed prevention. But now let's have a compliance reality check, which is you still need lawful traceability, right? A common misunderstanding is if it's privacy preserving, can you still comply when authorities require identification? Well, in the Finextra piece, John described a lawful resolution flow. If there is a valid legal requirement, the token for a specific wallet can be passed to the authority, and then the identity can be revealed through the proper chain, with the identity partner that holds the original KYC record and disclosed only to the requesting authority under that valid process. So, the idea is not to avoid compliance. The idea is design the system so routine operation does not require repeated copying and storing sensitive data everywhere. This is where my perspective in the Finextra piece comes in. I said that what stands out about zero-knowledge KYC is that it was designed to solve a very specific problem, enabling compliant activity without forcing users to give up their privacy. And I also emphasize that this isn't only a crypto conversation. It moved on to the real world. I say that the impact goes beyond crypto, and in Europe specifically, the tension is real. Higher compliance expectations for crypto asset service providers under MiCA, while still having to adhere to GDPR principles like data minimization and privacy by design. When compliance is implemented by collecting and storing more and more data, you can accidentally increase risks. So, privacy-preserving architectures aim to resolve that trade-off by providing what's needed without endlessly duplicating sensitive data. Now, let's look at the practical evaluation checklist, or what to ask vendors and your own team. All right, if you are evaluating a zero-knowledge KYC approach, here are the practical questions you can use immediately. The first is data minimization and storage. What exact personal data is stored, by whom, and for how long? Where does raw PII live? And can the relying platform operate without storing it? And what does the retention and deletion model look like across partners? The second will be attribute design. Which attributes are tokenized today? Sanctions, PEP, watchlist, age, residency, etc. And how attributes update over time. For example, list updates, status changes, and so on. And what's the process for revocation or reissuance? The third will be split knowledge and linkability. Can a single party reconstruct identity plus wallet activity from their own database? What identifiers are shared across systems? And are they correlation resistant? And also, what's the threat model for internal access, not just external attackers? The fourth point is the lawful disclosure process. What's the documented process for resolving identity under valid legal requests? Who is the disclosure party, and what controls and audits trail exists? And how do you prevent informal resolution outside the proper process? And the fifth, integration and operational fit. How do your wallet exchange app system consumes tokens in practice? What happens in edge cases, onboarding failures, disputes, remediation, re-verification? How do you prove controls are strong and traceable for auditors without accumulating unnecessary data? If a vendor can't answer these clearly, that's a signal. The whole value of this model is architectural clarity. Who holds what can be breached, and what breach actually reveals. So here's a takeaway. Traditional KYC often creates data honeypot, a centralized, linkable identity dataset. Tokenized attributes aim to give platforms the compliance outcomes they need, without distributing raw identity files everywhere. And split knowledge aims to ensure no single database contains the full picture, which can make large-scale breach, fallout, and doxing materially harder. If you want the full context, including the broader discussion on fraud trends, regulation, and where this is going, read the full Finextra interview. It's linked in the description. And in the next video, I will dig into regulatory trade-off more directly, how teams should think about jurisdiction by jurisdiction, requirements, and how to talk about privacy-preserving compliance without making claims you can't support. Thanks for watching.